welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you're a homeowner or you're even just thinking about a big renovation, solar panels are everywhere now. They've gone from this niche idea to something totally mainstream.
hmm
But the big question, the one everyone has, is always about the money. How do you get past just saving money and actually figure out the real hard numbers on the financial gain? I mean, it's a huge investment up front.
That's the heart of it, isn't it? Sustainability is great, but when you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, you need to see a real return on that
Yeah.
investment. Our listener, and you at home, you don't just want to feel good. You want to know the ROI, the actual numbers, especially with utility costs going all over the place.
Right. So, our mission today is a full financial deep dive. We're going to unpack some raw data from people who already own these systems.
World stuff.
We'll give you the exact formula you need to size your own system, and then we're going to compare the absolute newest panel tech to see what gives you the best long-term return. We want to give you the blueprint.
We've got the sources. Let's cut through the noise.
Okay, let's unpack this. So, we have to start with the evidence, right? And
Mhm.
the evidence we're seeing shows these systems are, they're absolute powerhouses.
Oh, the real world data is incredibly compelling. It really dispels that old myth that solar output is just sort of, marginal.
Right.
We saw this one example. A user shared their data online from an 11.5 kilowatt system. So pretty big, but not, commercial grade or anything.
Okay.
They produced over 1,700 kilowatt hours of electricity in 1 month.
Wait, hold on. 1,700 in a single month.
Yeah.
That's astronomical. I mean, for context, the average US home uses what, maybe 800, 900 kilowatt hours a month?
Exactly. So that one system basically produced enough power for 2 average homes.
Wow.
And even on the smaller end, the numbers are impressive. We've seen reports from, say, a 5 kilowatt system, pretty standard residential size, hitting over 30 kilowatt hours in a single day.
So you're not just chipping away at your bill, you could potentially just erase it entirely.
You really could, depending on your local rules for selling power back to the grid.
And this is all happening while grid costs are just climbing and climbing, which just makes every kilowatt hour you generate that much more valuable. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Hmm.
We've seen projections that the national average cost for electricity is set to climb from about 17 cents per kilowatt hour in 2025 up to 18 cents in 2026.
And that 1 cent jump, which seems small, is a huge deal. It's mostly driven by natural gas costs, and it means your savings are locked in for the future. You're not just offsetting today's 17-cent power.
You're hedging against tomorrow's 18-cent power, or maybe 20-cent power down the line.
Precisely. You are essentially buying your future electricity at a fixed 2025 price. It's an inflation-proof investment.
That really frames it differently, doesn't it? It's not just cost cutting, it's price stability. Well, we should probably touch on motivation too. We're focused on the money, but is that the whole picture?
It's fascinating, actually. The financial gain is why we're doing this deep dive, but we've seen surveys that show only about a third, maybe 32.6% of homeowners pick solar just for the bill savings.
Oh, that's lower than I would have thought.
Yeah, for most people, it's a mix. It's the finances, sure, but it's also environmental concerns or just wanting that, energy independence. But whether your main driver is green or greenbacks, the gain is there.
Right. And to calculate that gain, you have to get the prediction right. I mean, if you mess up your output calculation, your whole ROI projection just falls apart. So that brings us to the formula.
This is the absolute backbone. You get this wrong, you get everything wrong. You need 3 key factors to accurately predict your daily solar output.
Okay, so what are those 3 critical inputs?
First, you need the power rating. This is just the system's wattage, a 300-watt panel or a 6 kilowatt total system. It's measured under perfect lab conditions, what they call standard test conditions, or STC.
So that's the best case scenario number from the manufacturer.
Exactly. The second, and this is critical, is peak sun hours. This is 100% specific to your location. You absolutely cannot use a national average here.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, a home in Southern California might get, say, 6 peak sun hours on average, but a home in New York might only get 4.
That's a 50% difference.
A 50% difference in your yearly output right there.
Yeah.
And that number already accounts for cloudy days, winter, summer. It's the weighted average for your specific spot on the map.
So you don't have to get bogged down in weather forecasts. You just plug in that local number.
Correct.
Okay, so what's the third factor? Because obviously nothing in the real world is ever 100% efficient.
And that brings us to system losses. This is the reality check. You lose energy. It happens through the inverter, through the wires, from a little bit of shade, and especially from heat. Panels get less efficient when they get hot.
Right.
So for a typical residential system, we use a pretty conservative loss factor of 25%, meaning you multiply your total by 0.75.
25% sounds like a pretty big hit.
Well,
What's the main cause of that loss? Is it mostly heat?
it's a combination. Thermal loss is a big one, which we'll get
Mhm.
to with the new technologies, but it's also your inverter type, some wiring resistance. But that 0.75 factor is a really solid industry standard number that keeps your projections grounded.
Perfect. So the formula is solar output per day equals your wattage in kilowatts times your peak sun hours times 0.75.
Let's run a real example. This is where it really clicks for people. Let's take one single 300-watt panel
Yeah.
that's zero point 0.3 kilowatts, and let's put it in, say, San Francisco, which gets about 5.4 peak sun hours a day.
Okay, so zero point 0.3 kilowatts times 5.4 hours times that 0.75 loss factor.
You get 1.215 kilowatt hours per day from that one panel.
Right.
Annually, that's about 444 kilowatt hours. And in California, with their higher electricity rates of around 21 cents per kilowatt hour, that one panel saves you $93, 24 pairs a year.
Okay, wait. $93 from one panel. That doesn't exactly sound like a massive return on investment if a panel costs, what, $300 or $400 installed?
That is a fantastic point.
Yeah.
And it's where people get tripped up.
So what are we missing?
You're missing the scale. A typical system isn't one panel, it's 20 of them, or 30. So multiply that $93 by, say, 20 panels. Now you're saving almost $8,860 a year.
Ah, okay.
And that's your savings today, not 5 years from now when electricity is 25 cents per kilowatt hour. That's how that big initial investment starts getting paid off so quickly.
That makes sizing the system so much clearer. You just figure out what you use every month, run this formula backwards, and it tells you how many panels you need.
Exactly right. We know that a home using between 500 and 600 kilowatt hours a month, they generally need about a 5 to 6 kilowatt hour system. That's kind of the sweet spot for a lot of families.
And for a bigger house, or if you have an EV or a pool pump or something.
Then you might be using 700 kilowatt hours or more. In that case, you're probably looking at a 7 to 10 kilowatt system. The calculation is the tool that stops you from undersizing, which kills your savings, or oversizing, which kills your ROI.
Okay, so getting the size right is half the battle. But what about the technology itself? I mean, does putting cheap tech on a perfectly sized system just ruin the whole thing?
It absolutely does, and that leads us right into the tech discussion, because the size tells you the capacity, but the technology determines your actual lifetime output. If we're really focusing on long-term gain, we have to look at what happens in year 10, year 15, year 20.
Right.
And this is where things have changed so fast. You really have to look past the older P-type panels, like the standard monocrystalline PRC that dominated for years.
So what's the new standard?
The future, and your best ROI, is definitely in the newest N-type cells. Specifically, we're talking about technologies called Taikikon and HJT.
Okay, Typecon and HJT. So why are they fundamentally better for my wallet in the long run?
Two main reasons that directly boost how much energy you get. First is just plain higher module efficiency. The old PRC panels are around 20, maybe 21.5% efficient. These new N-type panels are hitting 22 to 23%.
So for the same amount of roof space, you're just generating more power.
More power. The second big benefit is a superior temperature coefficient. This is huge, especially if you live somewhere hot like Arizona or Texas.
And what does that mean exactly?
It means they lose less power when they get hot. An HGT panel, for example, has an amazing coefficient panel. It loses only about 0.24% of its power for every degree Celsius it heats up.
So on a brutal summer afternoon, when your AC is blasting and you need that power the most,
Your system is losing less power than an older one. It keeps producing at a high level exactly when your demand is at its peak.
that's a huge deal.
But the single most important factor for lifetime ROI is degradation. This is the manufacturer's promise of how much power the panel will still be producing after 25 years.
A guaranteed power floor.
Mm.
That dictates your savings in year 20, and it also affects the resale value of your house, right?
Absolutely. And the difference here is dramatic. For a standard PERC panel, the guarantee is usually for 80 to 82% of its original output after 25 years.
Okay.
But with something like HJT, you're looking at a guaranteed floor of 89 to 90%.
Wow, that's almost a 10% difference.
It's a nearly 10% lower degradation. Over the life of that system, that is a massive amount of extra kilowatt hours produced. It future-proofs the investment.
And it brings up that critical question for anyone buying a system in 2025. Is it worth paying the premium for this cutting-edge N-type technology?
The simple answer is Yes.
Really?
Yeah, the data is pretty clear. That initial 5% or so energy boost you get, plus the much slower degradation, means the extra cost typically pays for itself within the first 5 years, long before the main system is even paid off.
So speaking of payback, what are the current benchmarks? If you get a system today, how long until you're in the black?
With good government incentives, federal, state, local, most systems are paying back in a really impressive 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years? That's fast.
It is. If you're in an area with no incentives, you're probably looking at more like 5 to 7 years, which is still a fantastic return for a major home improvement.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you put a new roof on your house, and it might take 20 years to pay for itself in avoided repairs. A solar system does it in a fraction of that time while generating value every single day.
It's a powerful return. But before anyone runs out and signs a contract, we have to mention the prerequisites. Because if you miss these, your ROI is toast from day one.
Okay, what's top of the list?
First, your roof has to be in good shape. It needs to handle the load about 10 to 15 kilograms per square meter. Second, you need clear open space. But the most important thing, the absolute must-do, is a professional shade analysis.
Why is that the number one thing?
Because shade is the silent killer of solar efficiency. Even a little bit of shade from a chimney, a tree branch, at just the wrong time of day can cripple the output of an entire section of your panels.
Ah.
A proper analysis makes sure every panel is placed for maximum yield, which protects that ROI you so carefully calculated.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring it all together. If you're planning a system today, what's the game plan to maximize financial gain?
Well, it really comes down to three things. First, you have to calculate your output correctly. Use your real peak sun hours and that 0.75 loss factor. Don't use rosy numbers.
Right. Ground it in reality.
Second, remember that rising grid costs are a built-in part of your future savings. And third, and this is crucial, invest in the N-type technology TAW-Pecan, or HJT, to fight degradation and get the most value over the system's entire life.
That sounds like the complete playbook. But I want to leave you with one final thought, something to really think about in terms of future-proofing this whole thing.
Ah, yes, the evolution of the home.
Exactly. More and more people are getting electric vehicles. They're switching to heat pumps. Your energy needs today might be a lot lower than your needs in 3 or 4 years.
And you don't want to have to rip everything out and start over.
So how do you plan for that?
It's actually a pretty smart, simple strategy. When you install your system, you can choose a main inverter that has extra DC input capacity already built in.
So it's ready for more panels later?
It's ready to expand. Or you can plan your layout to easily add another string of microinverters down the road. It's a small planning step up front that lets you easily add capacity for that EV charger you haven't even bought yet. It protects your original investment.
Smart planning for a future that is only going to demand more and more electricity. That's it for this deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your sources and letting us really unpack the financial mechanics of solar.
My pleasure.
And if you enjoyed getting well-informed quickly and efficiently, make sure you follow the channel to explore more deep dives just like this one. We really appreciate your engagement.